There's a moment when the gentlest soul transforms into something unrecognizable, when years of absorbed pain, swallowed anger, and suppressed boundaries suddenly explode. Carl Jung called it Enantiodromia, the inevitable swing to the opposite extreme, but he witnessed something far more terrifying than a simple pendulum swing. He watched an empath snap. Tonight, we're going to explore the darkness that lives inside the light, the shadow that grows longer the brighter someone appears to be, and why the most compassionate people can become the most destructive when they finally reach their breaking point. Her name was Anna. At least, that's what Jung called her in his private notes. Anna was 34, a mother of 3, married to a successful businessman. Everyone who knew Anna described her the same way: selfless, caring, always putting others first. Anna was the family peacekeeper, the friend who dropped everything to help, the colleague who stayed late to cover for others, the woman who could sense your pain before you even knew you were hurting. Anna absorbed emotions like a sponge absorbs water, effortlessly, completely, until she was saturated with everyone else's pain and had no room left for her own. When Anna first came to Jung's practice, she wasn't there for herself. She was there about her husband's drinking, her teenage son's rebellion, her mother's depression, her sister's divorce. Anna had spent so many years being the solution to everyone else's problems that she had forgotten she was allowed to have problems of her own. But Jung saw something Anna couldn't see, something that made him deeply uncomfortable. In his notes, he wrote, "She carries the shadow not just of her own unexpressed darkness, but of everyone she has ever tried to save." You see, empaths don't just feel others' emotions, they absorb them. They take them into their bodies, their minds, their souls. And all that absorbed darkness has to go somewhere. For years, Anna had been a walking repository for everyone else's unprocessed trauma. Every fight she mediated, she absorbed the anger. Every crisis she managed, she absorbed the chaos. Every person she comforted, she absorbed the pain and her own anger, her own needs, her own boundaries. They went underground, into the shadow, where they grew and grew and grew. Jung understood something about human nature that most people find terrifying. We all have a breaking point, even the kindest souls, even the most patient hearts, even the most selfless spirits. But when an empath reaches their breaking point, it's not like when other people lose their temper. It's not a quick flash of anger that burns out fast. It's years of accumulated rage, pain, and resentment erupting all at once. It's a volcanic explosion that's been building pressure for decades. The day Anna snapped, it started with something small. Her husband forgot to pick up their daughter from school. Again, a simple mistake that had happened dozens of times before. But on this day, that forgotten pickup became the final grain of sand that collapsed the mountain. Anna didn't just get angry, Anna became anger. Pure, undiluted, decades-old rage that had been compressed into a diamond of fury. She said things she had been thinking for years but never dared to speak. She revealed truths that cut so deep because they were so accurate. She unleashed a precision of cruelty that only someone who had studied everyone's weaknesses through years of compassionate observation could possess. Jung wrote, "When the saint becomes the sinner, they do not sin halfway. They become a perfect inversion of everything they once were. But here's what made Anna's case so terrifying. Her rage wasn't random, it was surgical. She knew exactly where each person's deepest wounds were because she had been the one trying to heal them. She knew her husband's secret shame about his father's abandonment. She knew her son's hidden insecurity about not being smart enough. She knew her mother's deepest fear of being unloved. And in her moment of volcanic eruption, she used that knowledge like a weapon. She struck at the exact spots where she knew each person would break. This is what Jung discovered. Empaths don't just absorb love and light, they absorb everything. The darkness, the manipulation, the cruelty, the selfishness. They become walking libraries of human shadow. And when they finally stop trying to transform that darkness with their love, when they stop trying to heal everyone else's wounds with their own light, that accumulated shadow explodes outward. They become what they've been absorbing. They reflect back what's been reflected at them. They mirror the very darkness they've been trying to heal. But Jung saw something else in Anna's case, something that changed his understanding of human psychology forever. He realized that Anna's explosion wasn't pathology. It was necessary. For decades, Anna had been living inauthentically. She had been denying her own needs, her own anger, her own boundaries. She had been pouring from an empty cup until she had nothing left to give. The explosion wasn't Anna breaking down. It was Anna breaking through. It was her psyche's desperate attempt to reclaim what had been given away, to establish boundaries that should have been established years ago, to say the no that had been swallowed 1,000 times. Jung called it the necessary destruction that precedes rebirth, but he also called it the most dangerous moment in an empath's life. Because in that moment of explosive authenticity, empaths often destroy the very relationships they had sacrificed themselves to preserve. They burn down the structures they had built their identity around. They discover that many people didn't love them. They loved what they could get from them. Anna's family was devastated. Her husband threatened divorce. Her children stopped speaking to her. Her friends began avoiding her calls. But something interesting happened in Jung's sessions with Anna after her explosion. For the first time in decades, Anna started talking about herself, her own dreams, her own wants, her own needs. She started setting boundaries, real boundaries, not the soft suggestions she had called boundaries before, but actual non-negotiable lines in the sand. Anna stopped being everyone's emotional dumping ground. She stopped absorbing others' pain as if it were her responsibility. She stopped giving pieces of herself away to people who never intended to give anything back. And here's what Jung discovered. The people who truly loved Anna adapted to her boundaries. They learned to respect her limits. They started giving back instead of just taking. But the people who only loved what they could get from Anna, they disappeared. They found other empaths to drain, other giving souls to exploit. The explosion had been a sorting mechanism, a violent but necessary separation of authentic love from parasitic attachment. Jung wrote in his final notes about Anna, she had to become the villain in everyone else's story, to become the hero in her own. But he also wrote this warning. The empath who snaps and learns nothing from it will simply find new people to absorb. The pattern will repeat until the lesson is learned. The lesson? That compassion without boundaries is not love. It's self-destruction. That healing others while ignoring yourself is not nobility. It's spiritual suicide. that absorbing everyone's darkness doesn't make you holy, it makes you explosive. So tonight, if you recognize yourself in Anna's story, know this: you don't have to wait for the explosion. You don't have to accumulate decades of shadow before you reclaim your power. You can choose to set boundaries before you snap. You can choose to honor your own needs before resentment builds into rage. You can choose to protect your energy before you have nothing left to give. Because the goal isn't to stop being empathetic. The goal is to be empathetic with yourself, too. To feel your own feelings as deeply as you feel others. To protect your own heart as fiercely as you protect others. To save yourself with the same dedication you use to save everyone else. Jung's most terrifying case wasn't terrifying because Anna snapped. It was terrifying because it showed how many empaths are walking around as ticking time bombs, absorbing darkness they never process, giving light they never replenish. But it was also hopeful, because it showed that even the most explosive breakdown can become the foundation for the most authentic breakthrough. The question is, will you choose conscious boundaries or unconscious explosions? If Anna's story resonates with you, if you see yourself in her journey, share your experience in the comments. Are you an empath who's been absorbing more than you can process? Have you felt that pressure building inside you? And if you're ready to explore more of these deep psychological truths, subscribe. Because every week we'll meet here in the darkness and discover that sometimes the most destructive moments can become the most transformative, consciously.